watching my video thing here, and as it disperses, I think it slows down. So here for another quick tip, and the title of this video is: Are your used car prices aggressively? Are you are your used car prices um, aggressively and still not moving cars? I'm reading my title, man. It just jacked me up. Are your used cars priced aggressive and still not selling? Let's go over it. All right. So I could have just started that all over, but that's the cool part about going live. I think it's better and you get more people drawn in by just being human. So the reason why I wanted to go over this video is, I have a lot of dealers obviously struggling with gross profit. Just last week, I did a market review on what's going on in the market. We know we're going into the slower months, but here's the thing. Wholesale really hasn't caught up to the retail price adjustments. Retail hasn't really caught up to the adjustments that need to be happening. So what happened in August, September, really September, mostly a lot of into August, beginning of September, is we're watching cars. And I did a video about this too, where I was priced at 97% of market. And within less than a week, 97 turned into 99% of market. And not that I raised my price, but the market adjusted 2%, dropped the market average, maybe went down $500. So my price went from aggressively priced at 97% back up to market average of 99%. So then I had to drop your price again just to get to 97% and to keep up with market. And we saw that a lot across the board on every car, from cheap cars to high dollar cars. That's not happening as much anymore. And other than like late models and stuff, and you're starting to see a little bit of that. And it really kind of slowed down. So a lot of dealers are like, man, I don't get it. I'm at 90% of market and these things still aren't moving. Not getting leads. Do I just keep dropping my pricing? And so it's hard to say, right? You're 45 days old. You might be losing $500 and you're 90%. There's no reason why you should drop this price or justify why, other than the fact it's not converting. No one's opened the door. You don't have any leads. So obviously, unless there's some marketing magic you can do behind it, which there are. And so I'm not discrediting that, but a lot of times you're forced to drop the pricing and it just makes you scratching your head going, man, what's going on? And so, here's what's happening. You're aggressively priced, but to what? Okay. Go look at your competitive set. And what you're seeing is it's a lot of dealers where their middle bucket, their 30 to 60 day old cars, there's a lot more cars there than normal, and or a lot more age cars than normal. And again, they've all made their adjustments through September and October. And they're like, gosh, how much more adjustments do I need to make? And they're stopped making these adjustments. And so you got a lot of dealers that have this inflated price and inflate it to what the market really is. And so you're 90% of dealers keeping their prices high to protect profit margin. Again, which is all common sense, but you're 90% of 30 grand and no one's buying, because the customer's like, I ain't paying 30 grand for that. So where the market really should be is probably 29 grand. Now, if the market was really at 28 or 29 grand, you're not at 90% anymore. You become 95%. Okay. And so was 95% good enough to get it gone? Maybe not. You got to be. So what's going on is you're 90% of a 30 grand price that everybody's priced high at, and they shouldn't be. And so things are starting to get stalemate and it's slowing down. That's why the aggressive dealers still just, I would hate to say it, and it's not blindly adjust. It's blind to the market. David Long says it all the time in our Friday morning clubhouse, which was just this morning. But basically, you make your own economy, and sometimes you're going to have to, on these cars. I'm talking to a dealer that's right there right now. We're so aggressively priced. I'm like, gosh, dang it, guys. I don't want to move this price anymore. Why isn't it selling? It's like, this car just needs more eyeballs right now. And so what suggests with them is, obviously getting VIN specific advertisement, getting this car in front of active shoppers looking for that make and model, getting it spotlighted on Auto Trader or specials on, Car Gurus, and getting your team aware of it, making a special on your website, put it on your showroom floor. There's other ways than spending money and dropping pricing, but you got to draw attention to this car. But at some point in time, your 90% will turn into 93% again. And then now the market's adjusting. But just seeing that, we had a lot of it in September, and all the cars were seeing that kind of movement. Now it's maybe late models, right? Because rebates and incentives are out and guys are high dollar cars and we're making adjustments there. And that's the other thing. We're seeing a lot of cheap cars sitting too. And, that's sometimes, around this season. You see these cheaper cars, 15 grand or less. You're like, man, it's a 13 grand car. I'm at what 90%. Well, I don't have any leads. Things not moving. And that's a little bit of a seasonal thing too. A lot of people think about it. I mean, if you're going into winter months, you want to, your car's dying. It's not starting in the cold, or tires and wheels and, alignment and slick tires in winter months. I mean, people want a more reliable car going in the winter months too. Those cheaper cars tend to have phases where it's tax season type car. Cheaper cars, people get 4 grand. They put it down on a 15 grand car to keep the payment low, or trying to pay cash for a car because of a tax return that gave them enough cash to buy that cheaper car. So it's a tax season, and then usually it's right around that going back to school, July, August. Kids are going back to school. And so you get that phase where, hey, I got my kid going away to college. I need to get him a cheap car, starting to be able to drive to school. I need to get him a cheap car. And so you get those phases of when school starts and or tax season. And then sometimes these cheaper cars start sitting as new car incentives get better. People are like, man, if I'm going to get a car, I just need to get something better than what I currently have or had over the last 3 or 5 years. And so they're looking better than a 15 grand car. They went 20, 30, 40 grand winners around the corner and stuff like that. So, and a lot of these people these are need buyers, not want buyers going into these slower months. And so if they're a need buyer, again, they're typically replacing what they got, and so forth. So, my point being is you might be feeling it right now and seeing it. You're like, man, I've never been more aggressively priced. My margins compression is smaller. It's getting tighter, and I'm getting less and less gross profit. And again, what that's mostly driven by, and you're like, I'm at 90% and still not selling. It's 90% of what? And we ran into that. And I give an example a couple of weeks ago, and I'll wrap this up, was, a dealer, one of our dealer partners had like a 2025, 2024, something like that, 2025, let's say a used current year model. And, we're like, man, we're at 90, 90%, 95% and wondering why this thing's sitting. But I'm like, compared to what? And then we looked at all these dealers, let's say they're all priced around 40 grand. And we're like, well, we're 35 grand of 40 grand, but you go look at the MSRP on the car, it was 42 grand. And it's like, holy cow, you can buy a brand new one for 42, MSRP of 42, but after rebates and incentive, it was more like 37, 38. And so we're like, oh shit, we're 90% of 40, of the average, but really we're only even at 90%, we're only 2 grand cheaper than what they can buy a new one after rebate. So we had to drop the price. And so we're 90% of what every other dealer was trying to get for it, which was pretty much sticker or higher than a new one. So we had to be more aggressive than that 90%. We had to get down to like 80, 85% to make it more relevant to a new one they could buy after rebate. So same point. Even if it's a 2022 and you're wondering why you're at 90% and this thing's still not selling and you're 10% below the market, but at 10% against what? These guys keeping their prices high at 30 grand when it really should be at 27 or 28, where they're actually leaving and selling. So if you're 25, 26 grand and they're selling, are you as aggressive as you think, basically where that car should be? So really look at active solds, compare your number to that. Then I would be current and recent inventory listings. Look at that competitive set, look at things and the transactions that are happening, not just what people are trying to sell it for. So hope this is helpful. I hate posting these on Fridays, so I know a lot of people are tied up going the weekend, and I just wanted to make sure I got something out this week. Hope this was helpful. Again, kind of all over the place, sporadic on this video, but I just wanted to get out there, get it in front of you guys, give me your feedback of what you think, and if that's stuff happening at your lot. If you'd like to see how we can help you, go to lotwalk.com and see what